Okay, Aaron, thanks for joining us in the Regional Football Hub. We certainly appreciate your time, and we hope to be able to go over your journey and share some stories, and hope to have a good few laughs. Hope you've been doing well in the times that we currently have. So I hope you've been doing okay. It's obviously a shame that football's come to a close over in the UK for you, but certainly was good to see the EPL back up until Arsenal got beat. But hope that you've been doing well, and thanks for coming on. So thanks very much, mate.
Yeah, no dramas, guys. Thank you very much for having me. No, I really appreciate it. Hopefully, don't bore too many people with my stories, but no, I'm really looking forward to reminiscing on the old days back in the country. And no, doing all well, mate. Everything's fine over here. Like I say, it's a little bit, uncertain times that we're living in at the minute over here with the lockdown and everything. We're starting to come out of it a bit. And like I say, the curtailment of the season was a little bit frustrating, but it's good to have the Premier League back last night, even if goal line technology is still on furlough leave, I think. So
yeah, I must have.
I think Sheffield United is a little bit hard done by this morning, but anyways, no dramas. So cheers for having us, guys.
No worries, thank you.
I guess the first question is, if you could be a professional in any other sport apart from football, what would it be?
Right. I mean, I love all sports, really. I'm a bit of a sports freak, really. But I suppose growing up, I used to play a fair bit of golf with my dad around the Mudgee Golf Club. So I think I really enjoy team sports, but I think I'd enjoy having a little crack at it on my own, like something, so maybe an individual sport like golf. But I do like the thought of being a cricketer and following the summer round. So that wouldn't be too bad either. But I think I'd go with golf, if I'm honest. I'd really like to get stuck into it.
Oh, we're all laughing. We've asked that question about 9 times and we have not got a different answer. It's been golf every time.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
I think
because everyone keeps saying golf, we're going to change it.
As a footballer, you get a little bit of extra time in the afternoons. So I used to go and have a hit about in the afternoons after training, but I don't get the time anymore. So I think it's because I missed it. I think that's probably what it is.
I love it. Heading over to the UK, I heard it was the weather that sold you. It was the last thing that got you over the line to head over. Is that true?
Absolutely not. It's pissing it down at the minute, which is typical of England. But we've actually had probably 2 or 3 weeks where it was sunny, and I think that's our lot. I think we're back to rain now. But now I do miss the summers and the nice weather. But it actually is a beautiful country over here, even though most people won't believe me. But no, I definitely want the weather, mate. That's for sure.
I love it.
So is black pudding part of your diet now? Are you a fan or not quite accustomed yet?
I don't mind black pudding, to be honest. I don't eat it very often. It's not part of my diet, but I ain't traded in Vegemite for Marmite yet. I ain't gone that far. So it's still Vegemite my household, mate. Don't worry about that. And the missus she's converted as well, so she's a Vegemite girl now. I'm slowly getting her into the Aussie spirit.
What would you say your biggest weakness is, or your worst habit?
Your biggest weakness? There's probably a few. I think as a footballer and as an athlete, well, so-called athlete, as I was, obviously retired now, but I think it's food. Food was one of my probably weaknesses. I got away with it quite a lot because you're working out a bit, but I do have. I'm a bit of a foodie. I like doing a fair bit of cooking, and so I probably eat too much. I have to go on bloody 50, 60 mile bike rides now just so I can come home and enjoy a good bit of food. So food's probably me weakness, really. So I have to work it off a lot more than what I used to now as I'm getting a bit older. So I've got to be a bit more careful, but I do enjoy my food.
Awesome. Everyone has a go-to joke, Aaron. Do you have one, mate?
Probably not one I can share on here. A little bit rude, but the go-to joke, I mean, I don't know. This
Going under the bus, haven't I?
Yeah. Oh, here we go. We've got one. That's what I was thinking about. What do you call a bloke with no shins? Tony. There we go. A little bit lame, but
that took you a while, yeah. See, that took you too long. That's actually not bad. I haven't heard that.
You got a new one, Liam. You're going to steal that.
Yeah.
What's a funny story from when your time in football? I mean, it could be something a player's done, or it could be you forgot your boots when you turned up for a game. What's something funny from your time?
Funny story. Again, a couple probably can't divulge. My family show as your own. I did actually forget my boots once. I've actually got another story that I will tell you. I'll keep it short. But I did actually forget my boots. We played Luton away, and I had to wear our left back Shane Nichols. I had to wear his boots. I was too scared. I was only 19, I think, at the time, and I was making. It was early on in my career, so I couldn't believe I left my boots at the training ground. So I had to borrow the left backs, and he was I'm a 9.5, and he was a 9, so I had to take the inserts out the bottom and play the game without the inner soles in, and my feet slipping about a bit. I had blisters at the end of the game, but I got through it in the end. But we had an FA Cup game years ago now. We played. It was a second round FA Cup game. We played Droylsden. So they were sort of inner Manchester sort of team, a little bit rough. Had a few rough players, and so real non-league team, they were. So they, but they were competitive, and it was we played them, and we were. It was 0-0 with about 5 minutes to go, and one of their boys got injured, And anyway, so it was our centre forward, Jack Lester. He's a little bit of he's a funny bugger, and he. Anyways, we kicked it out for. They kicked it out. Play went down. Anyways, threw it on to Jack, and Jack lobbed the goalkeeper and scored when we meant to just give it back to him. So they've kicked right off. They have, and they're fighting in the dugouts, and they're having a go at. And so it's all kicked right off. There's only a couple of minutes left. So our manager, our chairman's shouting down to him, "Don't let him score! Don't let him score!" It's like 35 grand or something like that. Don't let him score. Anyways, the gaffer, he ended up going, nah, let him walk it in. So we walked it in. So we had a replay back at their place. So we go back to their place on the Tuesday night. It comes to like the 72nd, 73rd minute of the game. We're 2-0 up, cruising, going through the next round. Anyways, boom, boom, lights just go out. So after 75 minutes, the score stands. But because it was like 72 minutes, anyways. So game got abandoned, result got abandoned. We had to go back there 2 weeks later, go back, and we end up losing 2-1. And their left back scored 2 goals. So we're gutted, we're in the change room, absolutely gutted, thinking, how has this come to? We've played them 3 times now, and we ended up losing. In the end, the left back he got sent off on the Saturday, and we didn't know about it. So he was meant to be suspended for the game. So anyways, Droylsden got kicked out of the FA Cup. We went through on a technicality, and we got to switch away. So it wasn't too bad. Played at Portman Road in the 3rd round. So funny story there. So we ended up playing them a couple of times. So a little bit random, but there you go.
I like it.
That was unreal. Yeah. What would you say your favourite football team is in world football?
Well, I wouldn't. It's definitely Leeds United. I'm a Leeds United fan. My dad was born just outside of Leeds, a little sort of town just on the outskirts of Leeds. He emigrated to Australia when he was like 10. But anyways, yeah. So he's a Leeds United supporter, and so I grew up as a Leeds supporter, and then it only sort of got bigger as we end up having a fair few Aussies playing for him, with Viduka and Kuhl and Burns and whatnot, and so it was quite easy to support them in Australia. So Leeds United.
That's a good answer. I'm happy with that one.
Better than Arsenal anyway.
Tottenham, the interview was over though. So that's
What was that? Sorry.
If you had said Tottenham, the interview was going to be over.
No, not Spurs. No, we'll beat them next year for you. We're back in the Prem.
Beautiful.
Perfect. Before we get into the football side of stuff, one last question here. In downtime, did you binge in any Netflix series, mate? What's your go-to Netflix or favourite movie?
No, not really. I mean, Netflix, is quite popular with footballers and that, because they've got obviously that extra time I was talking about. So they just sit back when it's rain, and they just sit back and watch a bit of. I've never really got into that, really myself. I have got it, and I've been into that The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. Oh, I'm sure you've had probably everyone saying that. So that was quite good. It was really insightful actually to see that. So I'd probably say it's probably the only series I've watched on Netflix. So I'd say that really. But in the downtime, I've just been, like I've been looking at a lot more football and catching up and doing season reviews. So to be honest, not had loads of time. Even though we are in lockdown, it feels stupid me saying we've not had loads of time, but I've kept myself fairly busy. So, but I would say that I've watched that. So I'd say The Last Dance to put an answer to your question.
Perfect.
You got to pick a five-a-side team from players you've played with. Who'd be in your team?
Oh, that's a good question. Because this is going out in Australia, it would be a little bit difficult if I told a few players over here, because a lot of the players I did say, it'd be difficult for people to know who they are or relate to. I was lucky to play with a fair few good players with me in the AOS and with the Australian teams over the years. So it's hard to say. I'd probably go. Tough one to go in goal between Federer and Vukovic, to be honest. I mean, but I've probably played with Federer more, so I'd probably say Federici in goal, and Mark Milligan, I'd say, obviously the Aussie captain. It was good playing with him. Stuart Michalik was a great player and a roommate at the AIS with me, so he'd get me team just for a laugh as well. But a great player. I want to have a bit of fun, so I'd probably go with Nicky Ward as well, another good player. Wardy is a Perth boy, so he was over at QPR. I mean, we spent a bit of time on the old aeroplanes flying back and forth from England, and up front, I'd go with a solid player in Mark Bridge. I think I enjoyed playing with Bridgie, so. I think it's not a bad. Is that 5? Is that 4?
Yeah, 5.
That's be 5. There we go. Yeah, I wouldn't get in it, by the way.
You coaching, mate? Or are you in the grandstands?
I played with better players than me.
Oh, you coaching, mate, or you are in the grandstand watching?
Yeah, I'm in the stand, but I'd enjoy watching them boys. Like I say, I wouldn't get in that team. They're better players than me. But no, I'd enjoy watching them. I might, sit on the sideline and be the cheerleader for him. Cheer him on.
Who have been some of the more difficult players you've played against, and what made them so difficult to come up against?
Over in England, when you get some good cup runs, obviously there's some great players at the level I played at, League One and League Two, some really good footballers. But when you get the cup runs, you get to test yourself against some of the better players. We had a cup run one year. We got to, I think, the quarterfinals, and we played like West Ham with Darren Bent. We played Man City with Paul Dickov up front. We played Charlton. We played Wolves. I think probably the best player. When I played against Charlton, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank played, so I was a Leeds fan, obviously. So he was difficult. I think he scored a hat-trick on the night. So he gave me the runabout that night, that's for sure. But I think probably the best player I played against, just for his brain, was Teddy Sheringham. He was back end of his career. I think he was about 36, 37 at the time. But he was a step ahead of everybody. Literally everybody on the pitch. Obviously his quality was there to be seen, but it was his intelligence. He was a step ahead. You're thinking, what's he doing over there? And then all of a sudden the ball ends up at his feet, and he's got 5 yards of room, and you think, so intelligent. It was brilliant to come up against him. I think he was playing for West Ham at the time, and we ended up beating him on the night, which was good. But he was very good. He was, like I say, just really intelligent. So it was tough to get close to him, if I'm honest. And he was, like I say, 36, so it wasn't his pace at all. It was just his intelligence. He's able to find space when there was none, and his movement, his passing, everything was just brilliant. He was, like I say, just a step ahead. So, yeah, brilliant player. It was great to play against him.
When you're playing against someone like that, and obviously, he's going to be starting, or you're up against him, does it change your game at all, or do you focus on like how he plays to affect you, or you just keep going with the way that you play?
I think latterly in my career, the later I got, you did think about it more. I think you're a little bit more naive as a young sort of player. You go into the games just trying to do your best without thinking about the opposition, more thinking about yourself. But as you get a bit older, a bit more experienced, a bit wiser, and as technology evolved as well, you could watch clips, you can study opposition, and so you can learn more, and you learn more of the game yourself, and you become a bit more of a student of the game. So definitely later on in my career, I didn't change my game, but I there was still the key principles of myself that I wanted to be out on the pitch. But as far as just little bits of knowledge, like left foot, right foot, he's good in the air, he's quick, he's slow, he peels out, he always tends to go on one side. Whatever it was, you pick up little tendencies, and you try and negate that with especially if they're quick, then you try and make sure you didn't get isolated 1v1. If they're small and not as physical, then you'd try and make it into a physical game yourself, because that would be sort of suit me. So you'd try and make your strengths come out more than theirs in the game. So definitely later in my career I did. But when I was a bit younger, I think you just sort of went out into the game and played your game, and adapted as you went along.
Awesome. We'll go right back to the start. Who was your first football club that you played for?
I actually remember this. My first football club was in Mudgee. It was like the under sixes. I think I wanted to go as young as I could. I think I was 5 years old, and I said to Mum, "Come on, I'm ready. I want to go." I was always playing. My dad was big into football. So obviously being an Englishman and coming over, so he played. He played for the old Juventus in the NSL. Back in the day, quite a few years ago. I won't say how long ago, but yeah. So my first team was a team called Toyota Camry under sixes in the local Mudgee League. So it was a good team. I think that year we lost every single game bar one. We drew one, so we didn't win a game all season, but we had a great time. I loved it, absolutely loved it.
I was about to say you might be getting a bit of a sponsorship deal by throwing that out, but then you said the result, so I don't know if that's going to happen anymore, mate.
No, we still had a good time. We still had fun. That was the most important. And we enjoyed ourselves. That was the most important. Even though we were losing, but when we drew that game, it was like we just won the World Cup. So it was brilliant. So it taught us a little bit of adversity.
That's what it's all about at that age.
What do you recall about your days a little bit older than when you were 6, playing in Mudgee, and then obviously going to Bath 75s? What do you remember from that period of time, and how hard was it having to defend when you've got a player like Garrett Downing in midfield in front of you?
Well, I'll go back a little bit. Well, I went away from Mudgee, and I ended up my career younger days started to take off really when I was in the Riverina area. I lived in Griffith for about 2 years, so I was in the Riverina area, and I sort of did a Sol Campbell and went from Riverina to the Western area. So a little bit of Judas there, I think. But no, so when I come back to Mudgee. I didn't play in the Mudgee. I went over to Dubbo and played in, for South Dubbo Wanderers. So I was sort of playing in the Dubbo league, but also at the 75s as well on a Sunday. So it was, it was quite active. It was brilliant. It was great, learning. I just loved playing at the time, so it was just great to be playing. And there was some, it was quite competitive leagues, and some good coaches and some real good players that come out of the Dubbo League and also the Bath 75 club. So it was a great time. I really enjoyed it. I was also, like I say, with the Western team, and that was, we train on a Monday night with the Western Academy. and then I'd train in Bathurst on a Thursday, and play Saturday, play Sunday. So it was a lot of travelling from your parents. So the commitment levels were unbelievable, really. But no, it was really good. I loved it. I loved my time in Dubbo. I loved my time in Bathurst.
Who were some of the bigger influences for you? I mean, parents obviously were pretty big. Who else was reasonably influential in your journey at that point?
Coaches wise, obviously, like you say, it goes without saying, my parents were phenomenal in, and me, my brothers and sister, in supporting, the sacrifices they had to make was unbelievable. So I'm forever grateful to all of my family for allowing me to play me soccer. Coaches that were influential, a few over the years. I think early on in my days at Dubbo, there was a couple like Albie Mastalotto. He's at South Dubbo. At the Wanderers, he was brilliant in coaching me, and we ended up winning the league that year, under 14s, I think it was, 13s, 14s, something like that. So that was a great season. It was really good, and they were really good in supporting me, Anne and Albie. So also Bryson Rees was there at the time at the Western Academy, and he was brilliant, a great coach, Bryson. He took the time and the effort, so he was really good. I think around that time I started playing with the Country New South Wales team, and Norm Boardman was me manager of the Country New South Wales. So he was brilliant. Norm was, he really got a good team spirit together, because coming from the bush, they you sort of get a bit of a stigma attached to you. So he was brilliant in sort of making us really feel like part of something. It was a real team spirit, and we picked up some great results at the youth championships, and it was good. I really enjoyed my time with the Country New South Wales, and being captain there was good. So it was that was good. It was good grounded for me, playing out in the bush. I enjoyed it.
What would you say were some of the biggest challenges of being a regional footballer?
Like I said, they're probably the stigma that goes with sort of, they think you're inferior to the city boys. They sort of think we're a little bit, like our football intelligence isn't as good. So I think people sort of, players, not family and that, but players are sort of, the city boys would look down on you. And when you go to the championships and when you go into camps and things like that, they'd sort of think the country bumpkins are here and things like that. But we sort of embraced it, I think, our team, and Norm embraced that and made us embrace it. So, it made us stronger. It made us tougher. And I think, I'm glad I come from the bush. I really am, because I think it made me a tougher person. It made me work harder, made me really want to sort of shove it up them, the city boys, and let them know that the country boys can do it. I think there's been some great sort of players coming out of the regional sort of areas because of that reason, because they've got that real grit about them, and determination and drive, and want to show people that they can do it. So I'm glad I got that, rather than sort of have it sort of given to you on a plate. Not that anything's given to you on a plate, but that was sort of what we felt, the posh boys from the city, but no, I ended up coming quite good mates with some of the boys from the city, and they're great kids anyways, great blokes. But no, that was from a young age. You got that sort of, I don't know, Aussie underdog spirit about you, and I've sort of taken that on with me throughout my career and my life.
Awesome. Speak there about, obviously, captain when you were there. Were you always born a leader, or how did that come about?
I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say I was born a leader. I mean, there's certain aspects that were born into me as a character, and I think growing up you sort of get that. I think early on I leaded more by sort of just going out and doing it, being like a bit of a doer sort of thing, and rather than a vocal. But I grew into a vocal leader as I went on, and throughout my career I've been sort of captain at every team I've been at, really, I think. So that sort of followed me about, and yeah, it's something that I grew into as well, you know, and I learned off some great characters, and I was lucky at Bathurst 75s. We had some great, from me at 15 years old, going into the first team and playing in under 18s in the first team, you know, and there were some great characters there, like you mentioned, you know, Gaz Dowling and his family. They were really influential. Another family that were influential in my career, and you know, had some great times there at the Bathurst 75s. But playing in a first team environment at a young age, that was really really good, you know. And people like Mark Rook, who's still in the area, you know, and the characters in the first team there, sort of, you know, you learn from them, you learn from the experience, and when you go back into your age group, you become one of the sort of the voices, I suppose, and you know, someone who the players can sort of trust and rely on, hopefully, and I think, you know, that sort of, I took that on, and it's not something that I set out to do. It was just something that sort of was put upon me, and Norm was sort of the first time I got given captain. Norm Borden was the one that gave it to me at Country New South Wales, and it was a bit of a shock, if I'm honest, because I didn't really expect to get into the to the team, and let alone, you know, the captain. So it was a bit of an honour, really, and I think that really gave me confidence. That really did. I remember the phone call. It's clear as day. My mum was on the phone to one of the ladies in the office and said, "No, yeah, Aaron's got in and he's captain," and that was it was an amazing moment for me and for my family. So it was I think that gave me the confidence to think, you know, actually I can be, you know, a bit of a leader and a captain. So so I appreciate that, Norm, if you're listening, mate.
He'll be listening, but his head's going to be a bit bigger now after this.
Yeah.
He's a good guy, Normie. Obviously, you went to AIS. How did that come about? And what was your experience at Canberra like, being able to train in that kind of environment?
It was fantastic, but it came about with the national championships, the youth championships in Sydney, Valentine Park. I got actually scouted by West Ham, and I got a scholarship to go over to West Ham, and I went over to West Ham and Middlesbrough for a month when I was 15, and I think it was about 6 weeks over in England, trialing with a few clubs, and then that didn't work out, and I come back, and AOS got in touch. They rang Rocks, give us a ring, and said, "Would you come down and train with us?" So I went down and had a couple of days training, and then signed my scholarship with the AOS and had 2 years there. It was fantastic. It was brilliant. They wanted me to go there a little bit earlier, but I wanted to take this opportunity to go to England, so I ended up joining a little bit later than a few of the boys, but it was fantastic. It was absolutely the bedrock of my football education, without doubt. It was the facilities, just the culture that they had was brilliant, and it just took my football to a different level because you know Rocky and Reggie, Steve O'Connor, and Ray Joyner, they were just brilliant coaches, really good coaches. Made you think, tested you not only technically and tactically, but psychologically. You know, Rocks really was a brilliant man manager. You know, he was brilliant. So it was a great education for me, and a fantastic 2 years. You know, and some lifelong friendships you build. You know, every day you're training, and you go to school in the morning, train in the afternoon, play a game on a Saturday, and it was brilliant. We were a good squad and a great bunch of blokes. So it was fantastic. I can't speak highly enough of the program at the time. It was very good. So I'm very grateful and glad that I did that. It brought my game onto a different level.
Given that it's now closed, do you have any thoughts around it being closed now? Do you think that's an opportunity lost for future players coming through, or perhaps in the current climate, not such a big deal?
Yeah, it was a shame to hear it had closed and see it had shut down. And like I say, you just look at the roll call from the AOS. It's the who's who of bloody Australian football. Really, it's unbelievable. So many good players come through there, and we had again another one, the Australian captain, Mark Milligan, come to us. There's some great players. So it is a shame. You know, I don't know enough, if I'm honest, of the youth football in Australia at the minute to sort of to say whether that they're in a better position now to go down the sort of European route with the club youth team. I know that the Y League is coming on leaps and bounds, and but like I say, I don't know enough about it to comment. But it is a shame to see that a national program like that is unique, because they tried it here in England and it didn't work because of years ago. There's a few players that come through it, but you know the club youth leagues and the academies are so strong over here that that they didn't need to do that. They didn't need to go down that route. But in Australia, it was quite unique, and you know, to spend 2 years getting a great football education, and you know, it was fantastic for me, and fantastic. You speak to anyone that's come through the program, and they can't speak highly enough of it. So it is a shame that it's not there anymore. But I really hope they give it a good go with the Y League and develop the academies, because it's so important that there's a route through for everybody, you know. And I was lucky enough to the route was just getting stronger throughout the bush, throughout the country, sort of programs, and there's some really, you know, selfless coaches out in the country that don't do it for a lot of money. They do it for, you know, just the love of the game and the love of developing young players who are seen at a disadvantage for living in the bush. But that's obviously not true. So they've got just as much talent out there that it's really sort of they're finding them talent now, and there's a lot of players coming through, and it's great to see. So I just really hope they put a lot of effort into the future players, because it's so important that we keep developing young Aussie players to come through into the A-League, into the Australian team, and also overseas. You know, it's everyone wants the players to be playing in Australia, but it's hard to turn down the opportunity sometimes to go abroad. So, but no, Australian football seems to be in a good position. But like I say, I'm not in a position to really talk too much about it.
What led you to make that move to the UK eventually?
Well, when I left the AIS, so I come to the end of my scholarship. I was 18, and the NSL had just been defunct, and it was going to be an 18-month wait until the A-League started. No one sort of really knew a lot about it and what was going to happen. I got an offer to come over to Bolton Wanderers on a trial that they sorted and paid for. So it was a kind of a no-brainer, really. I could have waited 18 months playing, God knows where. Don't know where I would have played, because obviously I would have went back to Mudgee to my family, and there's no real sort of professional team out there. So the education I just got kind of would have went to a waste if I had just waited about, really, because I didn't have a team in my town as such. So I had the opportunity to come to England, and it's always something that was in the back of my mind. I always wanted to play in England. Not that I don't like Australia. I love Australia, absolutely. And I am, very proud Australian. But the opportunity to come to England was one I couldn't turn down. So I come over to Bolton, had what was meant to be a month trial, ended up being a 4-month trial, and then got told that no, it wasn't what they were looking for. And so then I ended up going to Chesterfield and having 8 years there. So that's sort of how it came about, really. There was nothing really in Australia for me at the time, unfortunately.
Tough decision, mate. Back to Mudgee to Toyota Camry, or over to Bolton Wanderers. I think you made the right one there.
It was under six, and I had a great time. Don't worry, I enjoyed it there. And again, you learn all along the way in your career. And like I say, that was pivotal in the under sixes was all about enjoyment, and it makes me think now when I coach kids, and it's so important that they enjoy it. That's the most important thing at that age. Under 8s, under 9s, under 10s, it's the enjoyment level, and there's got to be a competitive undercurrent. I think a lot of that's gone out the game that should still be there. Call me draconian if you want, but a lot of players grew up in desperate to win football matches, and I worry that might be going out the game a little bit, and you get to 12 years old and then all of a sudden you start a league and they go, you've got to win now. And they don't know what you're talking about. So but the most important thing is the enjoyment in the game, and the kids have got to enjoy it. And I learned that in Mudgee, so I took that throughout my career. I still enjoy it now.
No, 100% agree. Obviously, played at a high level, lots of clubs, but you're fortunate enough to also represent your nation. Take us through that sort of experience.
Yeah, a couple of the proudest moments of my career, really. Obviously, like I said, very proud Australian. And would do anything for me country. And it was an honour to play for the under-20s and under-23s. I was, 100% honest, probably not good enough to make it for the Socceroos. So never got selected, and probably rightly so, which is, a disappointment that I never got there. But it was. But I really, really enjoyed my time with the young Socceroos and the Olyroos. It was a brilliant couple of years, and good to go to the World Cup for the under-20s in Holland. Like I said, great teams and some real good players. They've gone on had great careers. Learn a lot. Like I say, it was playing under Ange Postecoglou was brilliant for me. And taught me again another level. You learn a lot off of everybody, good and bad. But Ange was a brilliant coach, and he's gone on had a great career. It's great to see. And then with the under-23s, and with Arnie towards the end was again really good, great experience for me as well. So I enjoyed my time. It was a shame I didn't get to go to the Olympics. Missed out on the final squad. So to play all the qualifiers and then not to go was frustrating and disappointing, and I totally understood the decision. It was they took a few overage players. I felt they felt that they needed the best opportunity to be successful at the squad. And now I've come into coaching and management myself. I understand the thought process behind it. It was frustrating for me, especially me and Nick Ward, to miss out, because we had done so many miles from England and back over to Australia, and spent best part of 6 months doing thousands of miles, which is absolutely would have done it 10 times over. But yeah, it's frustrating not to go to the final squad. So that was a little bit.
Aaron, with that, I mean, Adrian Lay had the same situation, right? He played all the qualifying games and missed out because they took an overage player. Do you think that rule should stay or change? Do you think it should just be the 23s of the Olympics and essentially the players should go? Or do you think there's some value in the overages being in the squad?
It depends how you look at it. I mean, it depends how you look at it. It was frustrating for me, and I'm sure. I mean, Ado still went, but I don't think he played while he's out there, which was a shame, because Ado was one of our main players. He was he played all the games. He was a stalwart for us, and one of the key reasons why we got to the Olympics. So to then go and not play is a little bit stabbing the heart a little bit. And similar. I think I played 10 or so games in the qualifiers. So to have as well a role in getting us there and not going was frustrating. But it depends how you look at it. I mean, their sort of thought process might be that you take an overage players to give you a great chance to be successful at the tournament, but also to give you some experience for the younger boys to hopefully flourish and take a little bit of responsibility off you. But at the same time, you're not kids. You're 22 years old, 23 years old. So you've got a bit of experience, and you need to grow up at some stage. And players need to take that responsibility and develop into leaders themselves. Whether you're captain or not, but taking that responsibility on as a player and being in them big tournaments will only hold you in good stead for the senior World Cup. So there's pros and cons to it. I mean, what do I think? I think you probably should trust the boys that got you there, and give them the opportunity to go and prove that they're good enough, because they've proved good enough to get you there, so they're probably good enough to take you. But I totally understood the decisions behind it. They wanted to be successful at the World Cup. We had a tough group as well, but like I say, it's not my decision. I sort of had to cop it on the chin and crack on.
Fair enough.
You mentioned earlier you spent some time at Chesterfield. What was the experience like at that club?
Yeah, really good. A vastly experienced manager, Roy McFarlane, signed me. Obviously, I don't know if he's how up to date you are with your English football history, but he was a very good centre half in his day. Roy McFarlane played for England 50 odd times, won the league with Derby County in the 70s. So great player in his own right, and also a great manager. And so Roy signed me. So that was quite a great learning experience for me as an 18-year-old kid. In League One, I didn't play loads in the first season. I think I played 10 or 12 games in League One, but but kicked on, and it was a great experience for me. To be playing professional football day in, day out, which I'd had at the OAS, but now getting paid for it, which was my ultimate goal as a kid. Was really to represent Australia and be a professional footballer. So that was my sort of goals as a kid that I wrote on the back of my door and had hung up and looked at before I went out in the morning. So to achieve being a professional, getting paid, that first paycheck's quite a nice feeling, to get that and know that your job is a footballer. It's quite an honour. So that was great. And again, learning. I had 4 or 5 years, was that 3 years or 4 years with Roy as manager. And he was brilliant. Like I say, just not so much his coaching, it was more of his man management that was brilliant. He's a bit of an old school attitude and could get stuck into you when you needed to, but just knew the psychological traits to treat older players, younger players, and how to sort of develop them into blokes, into men, and into decent human beings, and I think that's something I've learned, and I'll it's one of my sort of key sort of traits you must have as you and as much as the player, and I think was evident in Roy. He, as a young player, he wanted you to have respect and just the basics of that I had anyways from a good ground and as with my family and with my football education in Australia, but it just reiterated it to me. So yeah, good manager, and a good couple of years. I met my wife at Chesterfield, so so I've got really good sort of links. Still do. When I go back, I went back just before the lockdown. I went back and watched the game, and they were very accommodating. Really nice. It's a brand new stadium there now, and it's a beautiful ground. It's a shame to see them in the level that they're at now. They should really be a League One club. With the facilities they've got, but no, really good family club, and got a lot of time for the place.
You mentioned some good experience with Roy as your manager. When the manager changes, what's the biggest challenges that you as a player have faced when a new manager comes in? Is it pretty much been that you've been maybe a starting player and then the new coach comes in? Do you feel like you're on ground zero when that happens, or have you not had that in your experience?
Yeah, but obviously had a few managerial changes as in a 15-year career. I've been quite lucky. I've not had as many as some, but definitely had a few. I mean, it's always weird. There's a certain amount of guilt that not everyone feels. I did. You feel like you've let him down a little bit. And you've got to take a little bit of responsibility. The players have to take a certain amount of responsibility. It's not all down to the manager. He might have the sort of his style, his philosophy he wants to get across, and that might not be working at the time. But energy and commitment levels is down to us. If they're not good enough, then that's on us as players. But I think when a new manager comes in, generally there's a few things thrown out there. It's the sort of traditional ones are you're not fit enough. So first week is the absolute fitness sessions. There's always a certain amount of manager comes in, he wants to sort of make a good impression. So he'll always sort of say, it's an even keel. Everyone's back to sort of zero, and everyone's available for selection. And generally, you don't see too many changes in the first sort of week from the manager as far as personnel or team selection, because it's more the players generally feel like they've they've sort of they've got a stigma with the old manager, and now that the new manager comes in, they do have a clean sheet. So it really does wind me up when you see it. But some players will all of a sudden become better players overnight because of it, And I think, well, why didn't you put that effort, or why didn't you put that commitment in a week ago when the old manager was here? And some players fall out with managers, and when a new manager comes in, they get a new lease of life, and that could be a good player, but they just had a falling out. So, but the sort of challenges is trying to get used to how the new manager works, making sure that you fit into his plans as a player, and keeping your core values as a person and as a player, but trying to adapt your game into suiting the style that he wants to play, because you can get into sticky ground if all of a sudden a player all of a sudden starts trying to change what he's good at. I knew what my strengths and weaknesses were as a player, and like I said to you earlier, I would try and make sure as much as I could that I would let my strengths come out in a match and hide my weaknesses as best as possible. But if I start changing who I am, and I was never one to sort of start playing out from the back. I was half tidy, but I wouldn't start like being dribbling at people or taking people on. That was not my game. So if a new manager come in, I wouldn't start trying to do that. I'd stick to my core values, but you would try and work out. You do your research and try and work out his style and try and fit into that as best as possible, because you don't want to get left behind.
Were there any key differences in your time at Chesterfield compared to the time at Torquay, and if so, what were they?
Location. It was 4 hours away, which is just a trip down the road for a bit of milk in Mudgee. But in England, that's a lifetime away for some of the pommies. It's a bit too far, but no. So obviously, like I say, location. Torquay's right on the beach, beautiful part of the world. It's got some great beaches. Believe it or not, it's not all mud. There is some sand there, and there is it got sunshine. About 3 weeks of the year, not 2 like everywhere else. So it's obviously I went from Chesterfield in League One and Torquay in League Two, so it was a drop down in level, but they're still very similar. Much of a muchness, really. The levels and the players, they're still very competitive and very similar. So it was working. What you can do is what I found is I was at Chesterfield for 8 years, a long time, and you can be sort of tarred with a brush at a club, and when you go to a new club, you can kind of not reinvent yourself, but you can become, because everyone knows who you are and your character and everything like that. When you go to a new club, they don't. So it's quite refreshing, and it's nice to go in somewhere and develop and grow as a person. And sort of, when I was at Chesterfield, you were looked at, because I was there from 18 to sort of 26, 27. You would never really. I never transferred over to an experienced pro. But then when I went to Torquay, instantly overnight, I was an experienced player, and a sort of someone that the younger players looked up to a little bit. So that was a little bit different for me, which was great, and again, took on sort of that leadership role at the club, and a few years down the track, ended up being, like a vice captain and captain on the day a few times. So it was a good experience. It was good to, different city, different town, and getting used to that and adapting to life. My wife, moving away from home and things like that. So there was a few different things we had to adjust to. But, at the end of the day, football didn't change too much. It was still had to work hard and crack on and try and win matches.
Was that the hardest part in moving, convincing the wife to come or to change?
No, I think she was all right about it. She understands. She's absolutely brilliant, and she understands the lifestyle that a footballer has. It's it's not all fast cars, nice houses, fancy dinners, and and all that. It's a lower level sort of a League One, League Two footballer. You're paid above minimum wage, of course, but you're not. It's not millions, So life's not tough, don't get me wrong, but you've got to, there's sacrifices you have to make, absolutely. I mean, you have to at every level. But she's very understanding in the sort of 1 year, 2 year contract situation, and she understands that it's a short career and you've got to make the most of it where you can, and that it might be a little bit nomadic at times. You have to go around and find, that a club might want you that's 4 hours away. You can't commute that, so you've got to move. You've got to up sticks and go, and so she's brilliant. She was fine. She obviously loves her family and wants to live around the corner from them, as every sort of daughter does. But she was more than happy, and I think it made her, open her eyes to the world a little bit as well. Instead of living, up the road from family, she, broadened her horizons a little bit, and it was good. We enjoyed it. We had 3 great years at Torquay. It's a beautiful part of the world. Like I say, you're down on the beach walking the dog most days, and we really enjoyed it. So I really enjoyed it. Got back to me sort of Aussie roots and getting stuck into the ocean and getting, going for swims and things like that. So it was good.
Awesome. Go to pre-game. Who controlled the music? How did you decide who controlled the music? Was there ever a memory of someone who just played a song that you absolutely hated, or you team captain, so you got to choose, mate?
It wasn't really me, really. I mean, I'm more me. I like a bit of Aussie rock. I like a bit of me Jimmy Barnes and me Cold Chisel and me AC/DC and that. And that's not really popular in the English change rooms too much. And a bit of crowded house, but no, like I say, 1 year when we got promoted, I think every player chipped in and put a song forward. And mine was Thunderstruck. So when that come on, every now and then it'd get skipped. But I'd go back, get that back on, and we'd listen to it. But so there was I can't remember. I played with that many different players over the years. Everyone sort of give it a go, and I think sort of the go-to stuff is sort of the R&B dance kind of music, which I don't mind. And listen, I like all sorts of stuff, but if I had my way, it'd be a little bit more relaxed. I like an acoustic, or I like a bit of rock. That's sort of me. But it's got to have a guitar and a drum in it, and a bit of a good singer in it, a bit of gravel singer in it, like Jimmy Barnes. That's sort of me.
I love it. Going on to obviously the way you've travelled a lot. Team bus sort of experience. How was that? And was there any ground rules that were sort of put on the team bus?
No, not so much. Early on in my days, we used to, obviously you go for quite a few hours on the bus. We used to play a fair few card games, and the gambling got carried away a little bit at times, and I think the manager had to curtail that a little bit. There was 100, 200, 300, 400 quid a time going down, and it's all fun and games at $5, but when it's getting close to the kids get fed on Monday morning or not, then it's the football goes out the window a little bit. So we had to calm that down a little bit, and because you go into a game, you're all mates, but if you've fallen out with someone because he's beat you in cards, you owe him 300 quid, then it puts the game in perspective, because if you've got a win bonus on it, you're desperate to bloody win. I'll tell you that much, to get that money back. But no, but we still do now. I mean, it's different, when you're playing now. I'm a assistant manager. I'm up the front of the bus. I'm not down the back. I'm up the front. You trying to get as much work done as possible on your away trips, and trying to watch opposition and things like that. So your mindset changes now. I've gone from player to coach. As a player, you're just relaxed. You're focusing on the game when you can. I was never one for putting. I was sociable, I was never one for putting earphones in and watching a film. That wasn't me, I'd be one that was playing the cards. I'd be like, we'd do some quizzes and things like that, just to pass the time. But in a social way, I don't know. I didn't really like just shutting myself off with a film and or a bit of music. That wasn't me. After a win, you'd get the boombox on and you'd have a listen to good old music and have a laugh and a joke. When you lost, you'd sort of lick your wounds and what went wrong, and have the debrief and discussion. So that's sort of it. Just a lot of a lot of rubbish talk, basically.
Was a toilet allowed to be used, mate?
Only for a number one.
Love it.
Absolute fine for a 2. It's a fine.
As a defender, how much did you cherish scoring goals, and which one was your favourite?
I loved it. You know, every defender's a frustrated striker, really, inside. I love defending. I really do. You know, I'm glad I was a defender. I think, you know, it suits my character, absolutely. But no, I love scoring goals. You know, I was, you know, had a bit of a knack of getting a few. You know, I was a bit of a, you know, goal scoring centre half. So, which was important. I always felt a responsibility to it. You know, you see some players, they think, no, my job's just totally stopping the ball and that's it. Ball going in the back of the net and that's it, which is the bedrock, obviously, of defending. But I always like chipping in and helping out, and everyone likes scoring goals. I mean, that's why you play as well. You know, you don't win football matches without scoring goals. So if you can win 1-0 and you be the goal scorer, it's a perfect day for a centre half. Me best goal, like I say, I don't think I scored many outside the 6-yard box. Headers inside the box, really. But we played Grimsby away the year we got promoted with Cheltenham. We were playing Grimsby, one of our rivals, and we played them live on TV. So we played Grimsby away. It was a real competitive match, because they were second in the table, I think, and we were first. So it was a big match. So we beat them 1-0 on a Friday night, and I scored. And it was definitely not a Downes-like goal. It was a corner. It came in and it sort of, you know, bounced, ricocheted about a little bit, and I didn't head it in for once. I scored with my foot, and it sort of lifted it up into the top corner, so from about 12 yards. So yeah, it was probably the best one I scored, but it was probably best because of the importance of it. You know, to get the 1-0 win and to go into the weekend, obviously playing ahead of our rivals, to go in, put us 3 or 4 points clear at the top. So it was a really important win. So that was probably it, and got us. We won the league in the end, so it was really important.
You could take a few pointers there, Kyle, mate. You don't score many goals as a defender. You could lift your game there, mate.
Top scorer for the team a couple of years back as a defender. Anyway, moving on. How hard was it when you had to make the decision to retire, and what did you miss the most from that?
Yeah, it was. I've been riddled. My knees are terrible. I've been riddled with injuries over the years. Got told numerous times to retire, and through injury, but I kept coming back, and ended up playing till I was 32, 33. So I was, quite lucky, really, because of the injuries that I've done 3 ACL injuries. So, to come back from one's quite good. To come back from 3 was, it's quite unique. So, yeah, it was all. I always knew I was going to retire early because of that reason. So I'd kind of made peace with it, at a relatively early age. I wanted to play as long as I could, but I also wanted to make sure that I was ready for retirement. So I prepared myself with different courses and doing different courses for coaching and also a media degree and things like that. So just make sure. A university degree in media. So I made sure I was ready for retirement, so that if it did come early, then and a job opportunity come up, then at least I was qualified to be able to take that role if needed. So it was frustrating. No one ever wants to know their last game. And you don't want that to come, but it does come to us all, and you have to sort of accept it. And so I was lucky that the manager at the time, he could see I was struggling with my mobility, and the kind of person I am, I'm quite full-blooded. I wasn't the most gifted of footballers, but I was committed, and I'd give 100% with everything, and my body was sort of not allowing me to do that, but my brain was, and I was on my way to another injury, really. And the manager just said, "Listen, I feel it's time for you to hang up the boots, mate. You know, I think I'm doing it for your future rather than, you know, your career. And I could have looked at the smaller picture and got upset and went, you don't know what you're on about, mate, and buried my head in the sand. But I you know, come home, spoke to the missus, and, you know, thought about it, and he offered me a coaching role at the same time. So it was a negative and a positive meeting. But he just said, you know, I feel, you know, I was captain of the club at the time, and he says that, you know, I don't want you to feel responsible for letting the boys down if you know, because I was losing a yard. Not that I had much pace anyways, but I was just off it. So, and I knew deep down, if I was honest with myself, I was struggling. So it was the right time, really, especially with the offer of going in as head of coaching at Cheltenham and first team coach. It was the career I wanted to go into. So I could have left. I could have gone. I got offers at other clubs to go and play, but that might have been for a year, 50 odd more appearances, and then that job offer wouldn't have been there. So I felt it was a sensible decision to do. So yeah, I was just grateful the manager at the time was able to offer me that, and it really gave me you go from experienced pro back down to, you know, the bottom rung of you know, starting out and learning as coaching. So, but it was great to have that opportunity. So I was really grateful for that, and I still join in with the boys now in training, and, you know, still get my boots on and still have a play. I still played the odd reserve game, just messing about, you know, and but my wife is very happy I've retired. You know, she's sick of hospital visits. She's sick of looking after me when I'm on crutches for 2 and 3 weeks at a time. So she's, I think she's glad with all the operations I've had that you know, that I've retired now. She gets nervous when I join in the training, but no. So it was difficult, but it's the right thing to do. So I've made peace with it and moved on.
In your current role now, how much influence did Gary Johnson have in being assistant manager at Torquay United? And are you the good cop or the bad cop?
I would say 90% of the time, good cop. But there's every now and then where, you know, you've got to flex your muscles, I suppose. But no, I would say, yeah, 90% of the time I'm good cop. He's bad cop. He's the gaffer and he's the manager, and he's a massive influence on my career. Absolutely, especially my coaching career. A big influence on my playing career, but on my coaching career, massive. You know, like I say, he was the manager at Cheltenham Town and took me on as a first team coach and the head of academy coaching. And then when he went to Torquay and obviously my old club, he took me back down there with him. So it's a great opportunity for me, and it gives me so much freedom. You know, you see a lot of managers and assistant managers, and the assistant manager is quite frustrated with the limited amount of hours or the limited amount of input they have. But the gaffer's brilliant with me. He you know, he allows me to get on with it, you know, coaching and take the sessions and you know, put my own personal spin on it. But he trusts me. He knows that I know what he wants and what he wants out of a session, what he wants out of a week, and building up to a game. So he trusts me in what I'm doing with the boys, and he knows that I wouldn't do anything that's detrimental to obviously the ultimate goal of a win on a Saturday or a Tuesday night. So, which, you know, gives me confidence to go and to put on the sessions that I need to do. So it's you know, and that every day's a learning day for me with him. You know, I can put on a session, and it's great to have someone with such experience to you know, come off the park and him go, that was good, that was not good, you can improve this, you can, you know, that was brilliant, keep that, or, you know. So for me as a, you know, a young, you know, coach and aspiring manager, it's great to have him, you know, as a mentor and also as my manager at the time at the minute.
So speaking about your coaching experience, was that something when you slowly came to the end of your playing career that you wanted to do, or once you finished, did you have a bit of time off and then go into it? Did you always think you want to get into the coaching environment? Yeah,
always wanted to. I think from about 23, 24, some of the managers I had were really good, and they inspire you to learn. One example is Ange Postecoglou. His depth of knowledge and his detail in his, reviews, previews of games or training sessions, they inspire you to learn. So I went away and learned, and it was subconsciously things I was doing that now I realise, was absolutely beneficial to me want to be a coach in the end. But it was about 25, a few injuries. I was realising that I'm not going to be playing forever, and obviously being told to retire at 26 gives puts a lot of perspective on your life, and you go, oh, hang on, I might have to, what am I going to do next week if I do retire? So it really pushed me to go and, like say, do a university degree, go and get my coaching badges. So at 27 I got my B licence. At 31 I got my A licence, and I'll be looking to do my pro in the next year or two. So and doing other educational courses, just trying to learn as much as possible, and be in a position that when I did become retired, that if a job opportunity come up, which it did, I could take it. So I was really grateful to, that I was able to do that. And it's always something I wanted to do. And I love football, I love the game. I love learning about it. I love looking it up. It's not a chore in any way. I love coaching and getting out in the park and trying to improve players and there's so many different aspects to it, the development of players, of younger players, the development of older players, which is overlooked at times, and trying to improve them and keep them motivated on a daily basis, but also the process of building up to a game, learning about oppositions, learning about tactics to try and to beat an opposition, and just things that I really enjoy all aspects of it. And learning a lot more now about leadership roles and management. It's really, I'm really enjoying it at the minute. This lockdown period, like I say, it's given me the opportunity to do a leadership and management course, which I'm going through at the minute. So again, it's give you a little bit extra time to do things that you might not be able to do in the hustle and bustle of everyday life and in a football environment, which is 24/7. So to sort of step back and do some more extra learning, just sort of reflect and readjust and go again. So no, it's like I say, long-winded there, apologies, but no, it's absolutely something I've always wanted to do.
That's awesome.
Have you had any advice for youth regional players in Australia? What would it be? Just
give it everything you got. I mean, you never die wanting, like never die not trying. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what the saying is. I've lost it. It's gone in the head. But like, just give it everything you got, really, and learn your trade. And I think at a young age, sort of 6, 7, 8, 9, enjoy it. That's the most important thing. Just enjoy it. Spend time with your mates. Just develop. Don't get too caught up in being too professional at that age. It's got to be enjoyment. There's got to be freedom in your play. It can't be too structured, especially with coaches. Don't restrict it too much for the kids. If you can, try and allow them that freedom to explore and develop themselves to a degree. Give them a structure that's got freedom in it, because it's so important that they find the answers themselves without us giving them too much information and stopping the session and trying to be the best coach on the park. Don't try and give too much information away. Try and draw it out of them a little bit. But as you get older, and then it's imperative that you do take it serious as you got to sort of get to your mid-teens, and then just work as hard as you can. Do the extra hours. Be dedicated. Be committed. Be a good person. People are going to hire good people at the end of the day. Be humble and respectful to your elders and respectful to your youngers. Just be a good person. But that work ethic from a country sort of you know, from the bush. Have that about you. Embrace that. Don't be embarrassed about being from the country. Absolutely embrace that, because it's so important to your core values of you as a person, and people will love that for you. Love that about you, because there's a genuine sort of, you know, what's the word? Genuine sort of character. I can't think of the word. I've lost the word. About the people from the country. They're honest. They're hardworking. So, you know, reflect that in your play. You know, be committed, and then, like you say, that hopefully the technical and tactical side will develop from the coaches. But you know, there must be that desire from within, from your own individual, that will that has to be there, because if you're not willing to learn and willing to work hard and to work at your game, it doesn't matter how good your coach is or how good you are technically or tactically or even mentally. Physically. It's that mental side that you need to have, that's going to be so important in being resilient and strong and embracing your country roots.
Good advice in there for players and coaches, Aaron. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, our final question before we finish up, and we've asked everyone so far our question that's gone through everyone. So, Messi versus Ronaldo. Do you have a personal preference?
Which one could put it on in Chesterfield?
I think we all know the answer. That as far as, you know, who could do it in Chesterfield, I think it'd probably be Ronaldo. You'd say, purely on the fact that he probably has done it, you know. But Messi's not had the opportunity, so he sort of gets that unfair stick that, oh, he's only ever done it playing for Barcelona. But boy, has he done it! It's a tough one. It really is a tough one, and I don't. Whatever you say, there's no right or wrong answer. So I've got spinners on my backside here by sitting on the fence, by the way, lads. But push come to shove, you know, I think there's a certain amount of, you know, it's a bog standard answer I'm going to give you here. By the way, I'm not. It's nothing, you know, new that you've not heard. But I think there's a certain amount of talent that Messi's sort of got, where there's a certain amount of talent that Ronaldo's got, but he's had to work a lot harder. I say work a lot harder. I don't know the two, but it's perceived that he's worked a lot harder. In, you know, by what people say, you know, people from Manchester United, when they worked with him from a young kid, Sir Alex Ferguson's come out and said things, and then also his dedication to still be at the top of his game at 35, 36. So I'd probably say Ronaldo, purely on the mental side of the game. I really admire the strength that he's got in the dedication he's got, and I think he could do it in Mudgee. I think he could do it in Chesterfield, and I think he could do it in Turin for Juventus. So I'd probably go Ronaldo, but you know, I'd take Messi in my 5-side team. Don't worry.
Good in-depth answer. I like it. Well, Aaron, obviously, thank you for taking time out of your day. Great insight in your playing career and the start of your coaching career, and we appreciate you joining the Regional Football Hub and wish you all the best in what the future holds for your coaching career, mate. And you know, take care.
Not a drama at all, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. You're doing a real good job with your regional football stuff. So it's great to see it's getting in the public eye, and hopefully we can keep going. And more than happy to come on any time you want, boys. So, you know, if there's something you want to have a chat about, I'll try not to take an hour and a half of your time up next time. Sorry.
That's
good on you guys.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Aaron.
Perfect.
Well done, fellas. Good.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, bye.